The Lord of the Rings series on Prime Video, The Rings of Power, has upped the ante compared to other screen adaptations in how it portrays the proud mining race of dwarves. Peter Jackson's trilogy's dwarves were always lovable, but they came with a silliness that made them difficult to take seriously. In comparison, Prince Durin IV and Disa are still funny and charming, but their pride in their race and grand kingdom makes them easy to respect. This is far more like the dwarves of Tolkien's books. Fans of Jackson's Lord films have often complained that Gimli was made to be far goofier than his book counterpart, which set the tone for dwarves thereafter. Over time, the concept of bringing a good character down to the meager role of comic relief has been referred to by fans on Reddit as being Gimli, and they have discussed what other movie characters have been a victim of this character butchery. Gimli, Lord of the Rings, as the character that inspired this movie faux pas. Gimli is the king of being Gimli. His role was comedic in the Fellowship of the Ring movie compared to the book, but it was still within the bounds of a well-rounded character. However, by Two Towers, Gimli underwent some changes. Gimli changed from a proud, sturdy character with a slightly too high opinion of dwarves to this bumbling comic relief character who falls down a lot, said Redditor Eldenaro87. This is even in starker contrast with his Two Towers book counterpart, who was equally as strong and capable as Legolas. Bruce Banner, MCU. The Hulk has been a staple of Marvel Comics for generations, so his inclusion in the 2012 movie The Avengers was a must. In it, Bruce Banner is a quiet man, working hard to avoid any triggers. This was fairly in line with his character in the comics, but that didn't last to other movie installments. The way he acts in Avengers 2012 vs. Infinity War Endgame is unrecognizable, said Eldenaro87. While the MCU pivots on its balance of action and comedy, Bruce Banner seems to have taken the brunt of the goofiness, going from a genius scientist to a clueless weakling who is always fighting to keep up with the plot. Pintel and Ragetti, Pirates of the Caribbean. In Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Pintel and Ragetti are introduced as part of the terrifying cursed crew under Captain Barbossa. Despite being part of the villain team, the two were easily likable by audiences for the subtle, dark comedy they brought to the film. However, when they returned as mortal men in the subsequent installments, they seemed to have been squeezed of all their viciousness. Redditor Herdy_Gertie_Man_42 pointed out that while they were always a little silly, they are introduced murdering someone, shooting him point blank in the face. In later films, however, they were portrayed as barely knowing which end of a pistol to aim. Ron Weasley, Harry Potter. When asked what characters had been Gimli, one Reddit user answered that they always refer to it as characters who got Ron Weasley. Of the Golden Trio in the Harry Potter books, Ron certainly had the funniest quotes. However, he was still an intelligent, brave, and after a point, compassionate character. The same cannot be said for his character in the Harry Potter movies. Fans have long complained that Ron was given all the other characters' funny book lines. This was to the point where no one else was funny at all, while Ron was pushed to being a very one-note character, mean, fearful, and the center of too many jokes. Drax, MCU. Dave Bautista's version of the character was introduced to audiences in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and Drax's overly literal quotes and personality were an instant hint. Combining this with the other members of the ragtag team created the perfect recipe for comedy, and everyone was eager to see more. However, by Volume 2, Redditors like El Dinero 87 felt jarred by the character's changes. His quirk was that he didn't understand metaphors, which then changed to having absolutely no social skills whatsoever. Drax is still an easy character to love in many ways, but as MCU films continue to feature his cluelessness, his other characteristics seem to fall dangerously to the wayside. Dr. Marcus Brody, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is another franchise that finds the right balance of action and comedy. In the original movie, the humor was spread amongst several characters. But, as seems to be the trend with long-lasting franchises, a couple of characters started to take on most of the dopey humor. Redditor Veil of the Force used Dr. Brody as an example. They pointed out that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Brody was a proud supporter of Indy. He was a mentor who truly understood the protagonist's passion. However, by Last Crusade, Brody turned into a bumbling buffoon. Monsieur Thénardier. Les Miserables, a common favorite number in Les Miserables, one of the darkest movie musicals, is Master of the House, where Monsieur and Madame Thénardier sing about their questionable business practices. This reveals just how terrible of guardians they are to Cosette while providing some levity after heartbreaking numbers like I Dreamed a Dream. But in the original 1862 novel, Monsieur Thénardier was a lot more ruthless and cruel, which makes him a terrifying antagonist compared to his stage and 2012 film counterpart, according to Redditor J.M. Crown. The film might have needed his silly comedy, but it still lost a great bad guy in the effort. Roman Pierce. The Fast and the Furious franchise. Roman Pierce was introduced in The Fast and the Furious sequel, Too Fast, Too Furious, as a sort of replacement for Vin Diesel's absent Dominic Toretto. Roman was cool, capable, and always ready to make a well-aimed joke at another character's expense. Redditor Warrior 253 described him as confident or maybe even cocky. However, when Pierce returned to Fast 5 as a side character member of Toretto's crew, his entire personality changed. He is scared of everything, this Redditor said, and while he used to be the witty one, he became the butt of everyone else's jokes. It was a significant shift and, unfortunately, continued for all subsequent films. Finn. Star Wars. The Star Wars franchise returned in 2015 with The Force Awakens, and fans were cautiously optimistic about the introduction of new characters. Among these was the intriguing Finn, the first stormtrooper whom audiences would really get to know and sympathize with. Redditor Rendifi stated that Finn had a lot of potential in the first movie. As the first major role for a person of color in the franchise, and the exciting story of a trooper gone rogue, Finn had the makings of a character as iconic as the originals. Unfortunately, in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, most of his screen time was him falling over and bumbling around, a major disappointment. Jack Sparrow. Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack Sparrow is one of Johnny Depp's best characters, there is no doubt about it. The balance between Jack's genius and his quirkiness in Curse of the Black Pearl won audiences over immediately. However, some fans started to feel that as the franchise continued, Jack's quirkiness took over entirely. Redditor Beamer 17-21 believes that the problem came from the screenwriter's change from writing Jack Sparrow to writing for Johnny Depp. Sparrow's character was initially written as a mischievous yet genius pirate, but Depp added a physical comedy that brought the role home. Later, especially in Dead Men Tell No Tales, the writers tried to replicate this, and it took the character a little too far.